For those of you not in the know, Katy Freeway is not the name of a popular girl in high school. It's the name of a freeway in Katy, Texas. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to roads, and specifically how British roads ain't got nothing on America. And when I say that, I'm not necessarily talking about the quality of the roads. I mean, I used to live in Indiana. No, in fact, and you can probably see it in my eyes, no surprise, that I'm talking about size. And whoopee-doo, says Uncle Toby, America has bigger roads, so what? It's a bigger country, of course it has bigger roads. But its major roads are big and astonishing in ways that are big and astonishing. I think it was another of my uncles, Dr. Emmett Brown, who said, "Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads." He was from the north of England. But 30 years earlier, when Doc was busy inventing time travel, there was another man who saw things differently. In 1956, several months after Emmett Brown first visualized the flux capacitor, Dwight Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act into law. And this authorized the construction of an interstate highway system that would total more than 40,000 miles of road. This absolutely revolutionized US travel, to the extent that in America, there are 0.84 vehicles for every human and child. In the UK, this number is considerably lower. Of course, there we can partially rely on a comprehensive nationwide transit system. In the US, for reasons that I delved into in a previous video, and which I will link to at the end of this one, the nation's transit system is not as far-reaching. And this was a big shock to me when I first moved to the United States. And so when I realized early on that you couldn't get everywhere by train or boat or flying DeLorean, I immediately realized that Uncle Doc was full of Not only did America have a lot of interstates and existing routes, but they were bloody big buggers. Let's take a look at how some of the longest roads in America compare to those in Britain. Just this morning, I had the urge to hitchhike in the manner of an 80s movie protagonist from Chicago to Seattle. And then I remembered that this was a terrible idea and that my remains would be found in a barn in Montana. But yay to America's interstates, because you can do that, the driving, not the hitchhiking. Specifically in this case, we're talking I-90, and if you know anything about your American interstates, Interstate 90 doesn't just run from Chicago to Seattle. Your journey, not to be confused with the band of the same name, to Seattle via Chicago, not to be confused with the band of the same name, starts in Boston, not to be confused with the band of the same name. And that takes in a staggering 3,000 miles of road. And it's not even the longest road in America. That accolade goes to US Route 20. Running from Boston to Newport, Route 20 is 3,365 miles. Britain's longest road is the A1, not to be confused with the British-Norwegian boy band of the same name, or the stake source. The point is, at 410 miles in length from London to Edinburgh, the A1 is considered by most Brits, myself included, to be a considerably long distance. But again, Britain is much smaller than America. This makes sense. The thing that really stands out to me here is that our longest road doesn't go coast to coast. But even if it did, if it went from John O'Groats to Land's End, that would still only be about a quarter of the distance of US Route 20. And I think before I moved to the US, I wasn't quite aware that you could make a straight shot from the East Coast to the West Coast along a multiplicity of roads. And I confess I only included this sentence so I could use the word multiplicity and this clarification so that I could say it again. On top of all of this, I learned today, the United States co-hosts the Pan America Highway. And the Pan America Highway spans both continents of the Americas to form an unfathomably large highway network that traverses Alaska to Argentina. At 19,000 miles, it's a 13th of the distance from the Earth to the Moon and is the longest of its kind in the world. But, as I tell myself often, not everything comes down to length. Sometimes we have to consider this. What do you think of when you think of British roads? Do you think of those adorable and quaint country roads that can barely fit a tricycle? If so, you've never been on the M25. At this point, the M25 motorway is more or less the de facto border of London. And due to the increased traffic of the capital, at its widest it has a whopping 12, 6 in each direction. Huge, right? America laughs. Multilane roads of these proportions are as common in the United States as oxygen. Some are considerably wider even than that. Take, for example, the Katy Freeway. For those of you not in the know, Katy Freeway is not the name of a popular girl in high school. It's the name of a freeway in Katy, Texas. At its widest, and this is completely and utterly a little bit insane, it has 26 whole lanes. Sure enough, when it comes to roads, and as it happens, litter, you don't mess with Texas, as evidenced by these. Here's a fun fact. Ever heard of the term spaghetti junction? Well, despite its name, it did not originate in Italy, nor, like a lot of Italian food, did it originate in the United States. It originated in Britain. In the mid-1960s, Spaghetti Junction was the nickname used by journalists to describe Gravelly Hill Interchange. And this is perhaps Britain's most famous interchange, and, at a reported 5 levels, one of its tallest. But in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, 5-level interchanges are just another part of the scenery. None more notably than the comically named High Five Interchange. Get it? It's like a high five. You won't be doing much of that on this interchange. The point is, it's the tallest one in the world. And insanely large spaghetti servings aren't just unique to Texas. You'll find them in a multiplicity of cities, most famously Los Angeles, where I'm told the traffic is so congested, it's almost neck and neck with that of my channel. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Lost in the Pond. Let me know in the comments below which is your favourite humongous road. And if you like what you see here on Lost in the Pond and you want to read my words in my voice, then do so at Twitter at LostInThePondUS. And as ever, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. A Route 20 size thank you to all of my patrons who make these videos possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so at patreon.com/LostInThePond. As for me, it's time to hit the road, not with my fist. Goodbye.